The wind rolled across the Ironwood Ranch like a warning, dry, restless, carrying dust from the far-off plains. May Ironwood stood on the porch, arms crossed, her gaze fixed on the distant horizon where the sky shimmered with heat. She had felt uneasy all morning, the kind of tension that prickled the back of the neck and made even the horses restless. Behind her, the ranch hummed with its usual life. Clara stood by the corral, tightening the fence wires with sure, practiced hands. She worked quietly, focused, her dark hair tied back with a strip of leather. She wasn't the loudest of the sisters, but nobody knew the land better than Clara Ironwood, every hidden ravine, every dry creek, every safe trail during monsoon season. June, the youngest, was at the shooting range, revolver in hand, practicing her draw. Sharp cracks echoed across the valley as she hit target after target dead center. Sweat glided down her brow, but her expression stayed calm, almost bored. June Ironwood didn't miss. Everyone in the territory knew that. May looked at them, one sister steady as stone, the other fierce as wildfire, and felt a flicker of pride. The Ironwood Ranch wasn't just famous because of its cattle or its vast land. It was known because 3 sisters ran it alone, after losing their parents to a fever 5 years back. Folks said they were stubborn, impossible, dangerous. Folks were right. A distant rumble broke the morning stillness. Hoofbeats. Wagon wheels. May narrowed her eyes. A cloud of dust was rising from the road leading to town. As the shape grew clearer, she made out a group of riders, 6 of them, dressed too clean, too uniform to be cowboys or drifters. Their coats bore the same brass insignia, Iron Trail Railroad Company. May's jaw tightened. "Clara," she called. Clara glanced up instantly, reading the tension in May's voice. She dropped her tools and hurried over. June already had her gun holstered and was walking toward them, spinning the revolver once before clicking it into place. "Visitors?" May nodded. "Railroad men." June smirked. "Well, that'll ruin the morning." The riders slowed as they approached the house. The lead man, tall with a trimmed mustache and polished boots, dismounted with the casual confidence of someone used to getting his way. "Miss Ironwood?" he asked, though his tone suggested he already knew. May stepped forward. "That's me." He tipped his hat politely, but his smile didn't reach his eyes. "Name's Warren Blake. I represent the Iron Trail Railroad Company. We're expanding our tracks through this territory. Big opportunity for everyone." His gaze swept across the ranch. "And your land, Miss Ironwood, sits right where the new line needs to go." May didn't blink. "Then change your line." Blake chuckled as if she had told a joke. "Afraid it doesn't work like that. This region has been surveyed thoroughly. Your ranch is strategically located." Clara stepped closer to her sister, eyes narrowing. "Our land is not for sale." Blake turned to her. "I haven't even made an offer yet." "We don't need to hear it," June said flatly. Blake cleared his throat, trying again. "Ladies, I'm authorized to offer you a very generous sum. More money than you'd make from cattle in a lifetime." May shook her head. "This ranch is Ironwood land. Has been for generations. We're not selling." Blake's polite expression hardened. "I suggest you reconsider." "We won't," May answered. The air grew colder, heavier. Blake stepped closer, lowering his voice. "The company has rights granted by the Territorial Board. This railroad will be built, whether you cooperate or not. Selling now would save you unpleasant trouble." June's hand hovered near her revolver holster. May's voice cut sharp as a blade. "Is that a threat, Mr. Blake?" Blake smiled thinly. "Just stating the reality of progress." He mounted his horse. The other riders followed suit. "We'll return tomorrow with papers," he said. "Think it over." Without waiting for a reply, they rode off, leaving a trail of dust and tension behind them. The moment they disappeared from sight, June exhaled sharply. I don't like him. Clara's voice was quiet but cold. Railroad men don't make threats unless they're ready to follow through. May stood still, staring at the disappearing dust cloud. She could feel the land beneath her boots, the soil her father had taught her to ride on, the fields her mother planted wildflowers in. Losing this ranch wasn't an option. They think they can push us, May said softly. They don't know who they're dealing with. Clara stepped beside her, placing a hand on the wooden porch rail. May, they'll be back. With more men. Maybe with lawmen. June cracked her knuckles. Let them come. But May was not thinking about guns or fights. She was thinking like a leader. We're not starting a war, she said. But if they try to take our home, her voice hardened. We'll finish it. That evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky blood red, the sisters gathered around the fire pit behind the house. Coyotes howled in the distance, the air thick with the scent of sage and dust. We prepare, May said. Clara nodded. I'll check the water lines, lock up the cattle, and map the hidden trails. June grinned fiercely. And I'll clean the rifles. May looked at them, her sisters, her family, her strength. They want a fight, she said. Then they picked the wrong damn ranch. And as the first dark stars rose above Ironwood Valley, the three sisters stood together, unaware of just how far the railroad company was willing to go, and how dangerous the coming days would become. Night settled heavily over Ironwood Ranch, darker than usual, as if the land itself sensed the danger creeping toward it. The lanterns flickered in the windows, painting warm patches of light across the dusty yard. Inside, May Ironwood sat at the kitchen table, maps and old land deeds spread before her. Clara leaned over the documents, tracing the borders of their land with her fingertip. These lines haven't changed in 100 years, she murmured. Our great-grandfather drew them himself. He bought this ranch with war money and his own 2 hands. May nodded. And the railroad thinks they can erase that history in a week. June, feet resting on the edge of the table, twirled a bullet between her fingers. They underestimate us. That's their first mistake. May looked up at her younger sister. And assuming we'll keep this quiet is their second. June grinned. Oh, we're way past quiet. Before May could respond, a knock sounded at the door, 3 sharp raps that echoed through the quiet house. The sisters froze. Clara whispered, at this hour? May stood, her hand sliding to the revolver at her hip. June was already drawing hers. May stepped to the door and opened it just enough to see the figure outside. Sheriff Amos Hale. A tired, older man, hat in hand, face lined by years of dust and trouble. He wasn't a threat, but he looked nervous. Evenin', Miss Ironwood, he said softly. May I come in? May exchanged a glance with Clara before nodding. Come in, Sheriff. He stepped inside, gaze shifting warily toward June, who was leaning against the wall, arms crossed. The sheriff cleared his throat. I came to warn you. Warren Blake was in town today. Met with the council. Pressured them something fierce. We figured, May said. Hale hesitated. He's determined to take your ranch. Says the company has the right to seize land for public development. Clara's jaw tightened. This isn't a public good. It's a private takeover. I know that, Hale said quietly. But Blake has money, influence. He's not leaving without a fight. June stepped forward. Good. Neither are we. Hale shook his head. You don't understand. He's not just bringing paperwork tomorrow. May's eyes narrowed. What is he bringing? The sheriff lowered his voice. Gunmen. Real ones. Not the clean-suited fools he rode in with today. A heavy silence fell. Clara whispered, how many? Dozens, Hale said. And that's not all. I overheard him saying something about burning down outbuildings, forcing your hand. May's stomach twisted, but her voice stayed steady. Thank you for telling us. Hale's eyes softened. I don't want bloodshed, May. Your parents were good people. I watched you girls grow up. Please, consider leaving for a few days. Just until this passes. June stepped between him and the table. We're not running. Hale looked at May. I figured that'd be your answer. He sighed. Then at least be ready. Tomorrow will be bad. May walked the sheriff to the door. Before stepping out into the night, he looked back, voice trembling. Take care of yourselves, Ironwood Sisters. Don't underestimate these men. The door closed behind him, and silence filled the house again. Clara spoke first. So it begins. May nodded. At dawn. June's eyes gleamed. Then we won't wait for them to strike first. By sunrise, the Ironwood Sisters were ready. May rode along the fence line, checking every post, every trail the railroad men might try to use. She carried her father's rifle strapped to her saddle, the one he taught her to shoot with beside the creek. Clara prepared the ranch. She locked the barn doors, moved the cattle to the upper pasture, and hid their supplies in a small ravine only she knew. She scattered metal caltrops along the less used wagon paths, small, deadly spikes that could cripple horses and slow intruders. June was already focused on defense. She climbed the ridge overlooking the ranch and set up a shooting spot behind a fallen log. It gave her a view of the entire valley. They want a war, she whispered to herself. Let's give them one. Around late morning, May spotted dust rising from the main trail. The railroad men were coming. Not 6 this time, 20, at least. Wagons behind them carried crates, dynamite, tools, barrels of God knows what. And at the front rode Warren Blake, smug and confident, a new revolver holstered at his side. May galloped back to the ranch. They're here, she said as she dismounted. Clara, calm as ever, adjusted the strap of her shotgun. June slid down from the ridge, landing silently beside them. May took a breath. Remember the plan. Clara, you stay near the corral. June, cover the ridge. I'll greet them at the gate. June smirked. Greet? Is that what we're calling it? May didn't smile. We're giving them one chance to turn around. Clara murmured, they won't take it. May nodded. Probably not. She rode out alone to the wooden gate just as the gunman approached. Blake lifted a hand for his group to stop. Miss Ironwood. I gave you a full day to think. May's voice stayed calm. And I've made my decision. Blake leaned forward. And? May looked him dead in the eyes. We're not selling. Blake sighed theatrically. A pity. I was hoping you'd be reasonable. Behind him, one of the gunmen shouted, Sir, want us to start with the barn? Clara, hiding behind the corner of the house, tensed. May's voice sharpened. This land is ours. Blake's smile turned cruel. Not for much longer. He snapped his fingers. 2 of his men dismounted, heading for the barn. May drew her rifle. June cocked her revolver from the ridge. Clara raised her shotgun. The first shot exploded through the valley. And the private war of the Ironwood Sisters truly began. The gunshot cracked across Ironwood Valley like lightning splitting the sky. The moment May Ironwood fired, June unleashed a second shot from the ridge, hitting the ground inches in front of the nearest rail gunman's boot. Dust sprayed upward, and the man stumbled back with a sharp curse. Chaos ignited instantly. Warren Blake yanked his horse back. Hold your fire, he shouted, but it was too late, his men panicked, drawing their own weapons. Clara stepped out from behind the corral with the calm precision of a hawk, her shotgun raised. She fired once, hitting a wagon well clean through. The wagon toppled, spilling crates of tools and blasting powder across the ground. Sparks flew as metal struck metal. May's heart jolted. Clara. Watch the powder. Clara nodded sharply and retreated behind the water trough, reloading. June shouted from above, "They're fanning out. 5 to the east." May swung her rifle toward the approaching flank. She fired once, dropping a rider who had been trying to circle the barn. Another bullet whizzed past her ear, close enough to make her flinch. Blake's voice thundered over the chaos. "Push forward. Take the house." But the Ironwood sisters knew their land like a second skin. They had grown up riding every inch of it, and they had set traps the night before. One gunman charged toward June's ridge, but his horse suddenly shrieked and stumbled, its hoof caught on one of Clara's caltrops hidden in the dust. The man flew forward, landing hard. Before he could rise, June aimed and fired warning shots at his feet. "Stay down if you want to live," she yelled. The man stayed down. Meanwhile, May rode hard toward the barn as 2 railroad men sprinted toward it with torches. Smoke already trailed behind them. "Oh no you don't," May muttered. She fired a warning shot that whizzed through the air and clipped the torch from one man's hand. The burning stick flew into the dirt, sputtering out. The second man lit his torch and bolted. June, seeing it from above, fired. Her bullet struck a wooden crate near him, close enough to make him scream and drop the torch. Clara rushed in from behind the water trough, swung the butt of her shotgun, and knocked him flat. The torch fell harmlessly into the mud. Blake saw his men stumbling, failing, and losing ground. His face twisted with frustration. He pointed at June's ridge. "Take that shooter out," he barked. 4 men dismounted and began climbing the slope. June cursed under her breath. Of course they'd come this way. She moved position swiftly, staying low behind rocks and sagebrush. The ridge was her territory. She had played tag up here as a child, hunted rabbits in the early morning, even built a small hideout behind a fallen log. Now she used every inch of it to her advantage. The first gunman peeked over a boulder. June didn't fire. Not yet. She knew the true threat was the others sneaking around. She waited, steady, breathing slow. Clara's voice echoed from below. "June. 2 more climbing the south slope." "Got it." June shifted left, aimed through a narrow gap in the rocks, and fired 3 controlled shots. The first man yelped and clutched his shoulder. The second dove behind a boulder. The third scrambled back down the hill entirely, shouting for help. "Cowards," June muttered, rolling to a new cover point. Back at the barn, May found herself facing 3 gunmen at once. She ducked behind a fence post as bullets splintered wood around her. One man shouted, "Surrender, Miss Ironwood. We don't want to kill you." May fired back. "Funny, because it sure looks like you're trying." Clara rushed to May's side, taking cover behind a water barrel. "There are too many on this side," she whispered. "We need to draw them away." May nodded. "Drive them toward the creek." Clara's eyes lit up. "Where we set the oil traps." "Exactly." Clara took off running, sprinting between fences. She waved her arms dramatically. "Hey! Over here." 2 gunmen immediately followed her. "What are you doing?" May shouted after her. Clara flashed a tiny smile. "Trust me." May turned her rifle on the third gunman trying to flank her. She shot the ground near his horse, sending the animal rearing. He fell backward, wind knocked from him. Clara raced toward the dry creek bed. She slid down the embankment, dirt spraying around her. June, seeing her sister move, adjusted her aim and provided cover fire. 2 gunmen leapt into the creek after Clara. "Got you," Clara whispered. She struck a match. The gunman froze. "Oh, hell," one rasped. Clara tossed the match into the shallow bed. A thin layer of oil, spread there hours earlier, ignited instantly. Flames burst up, blocking the path and forcing the men to stumble backward onto the loose dirt. They fell, rolling to escape the flames. They were alive, but out of the fight. Clara scrambled up the far side of the creek, her breath sharp, her palms scraped. When she reached the top, June shouted down, "Nice trick." Clara smirked. "I learned from the best." June tilted her hat. Naturally. By noon, the fight had turned against Blake entirely. 8 of his men were down or fleeing. The wagons had been destroyed. Horses scattered, refusing to charge again into the Ironwood Sisters' coordinated fury. Blake himself was red with rage. "You 3 think you can stop progress," he spat. "You think you can fight an entire company?" May stepped forward, dust and sweat streaking her face. "We can fight anyone who threatens our home." Blake glared at her, breathing hard. "This isn't over," he growled. "You've only made things worse." June hopped down from the ridge, revolver still in hand. "Good. We like worse." Blake pointed a shaking finger at the ranch. "You'll regret this." He mounted the only horse still willing to carry him. The remaining gunmen scrambled after him, limping, bleeding, exhausted. They rode away, but Blake's final words hung like smoke in the air. This was just the beginning. May watched them disappear, her chest heaving. Clara wiped soot from her face. "They'll be back. With more men." June cracked her neck. "Then we'll be ready." But May didn't answer. She stared at the broken wagons, the smoking creek, the bullet-scarred fences. And she knew, deep inside, the real war hadn't even started yet. 3 days after the battle at Ironwood Ranch, the valley fell into a tense, unnatural silence. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. June Ironwood cleaned her revolver for the 10th time that morning. Clara checked the traps again and again. May kept riding the fence line, her eyes weary, her jaw locked in quiet worry. Because they all knew the same truth, Warren Blake wasn't the type of man to accept defeat. He would return, prepared, furious, and determined to crush them. And on the 4th morning, he did. The sisters spotted the dust cloud first, bigger than before, heavier, darker. June narrowed her eyes. "That's a lot more horses." Clara stood beside her on the porch, squinting into the sunlight. "He brought twice as many men." May walked out, boots crunching on gravel. She didn't need to count the riders, she could feel the danger in the air. Blake rode at the front, flanked by gunmen, mercenaries, even a few hired lawmen wearing badges that meant nothing this far out. Behind them rattled 2 wagons loaded with crates stamped, "Extraction Equipment Dynamite, handle with care." June cursed softly. "He's going to blow us off our own land." Clara's voice went tight. "May, what do we do?" May took a breath, steady and slow. "We stick to the plan." June tilted her head. "The canyon?" May nodded. "The canyon." Clara's eyes widened slightly. "The same canyon where Pa used to say the wind has teeth?" May's voice hardened. "Where the only way out is through a narrow pass. If Blake wants a war, we take him into the one place we can control every inch of." June grinned fiercely. "Well, if we're doing this, let's make it count." As Blake's army approached the ranch, May rode out alone, straight toward him. June and Clara watched from the porch, guns ready, as their eldest sister stopped just 20 yards from the mercenary line. Blake smirked. "Come to surrender?" "No," May said calmly. "I've come to offer you one final chance. Turn around. Leave. This land isn't yours." Blake laughed loudly, too loudly. "I don't care about your little ranch anymore, Miss Ironwood. I'm taking the whole valley. And when I'm done, you'll have nowhere to go." May didn't blink. "Then come take it." She turned her horse and galloped away. Blake barked, "Follow her. All of you." June and Clara slipped into the saddle behind the barn and followed through hidden trails only they knew. 30 riders thundered after May, unaware they were being funneled into a trap carved by nature itself. Ironwood Canyon. The canyon swallowed sound. Its walls rose high and jagged, narrowing into a single winding path. Shadows twisted in crooked angles. A slight, cold wind slid through, whispering like old ghosts. May slowed her horse, letting the canyon close around her. Behind her, Blake's men rushed in, 30 strong, rifles raised, rage driving them deeper into the maze. Blake shouted, "This ends today, Ironwood." May glanced back once. "That's the idea." She whistled, a sharp, piercing sound. Up on the canyon ridge, June and Clara revealed themselves. June had 2 rifles laid out. Clara held the rope to a heavy tarp covering something large, something dangerous. June grinned. "Showtime." Clara yanked the rope. The tarp dropped. Beneath it sat a stack of iron drums filled with lamp oil and dry brush, piled directly over a natural stone chute in the canyon wall. Clara shoved the top drum with all her strength. The drums tumbled. They hit the chute. An oil exploded downward in a cascading waterfall of black liquid. Gunmen shouted, slipping in the sudden flood of oil pooling around their boots. May spurred her horse forward, out of the splash zone. Blake stared in confusion. "What the?" June lifted her rifle and fired. The bullet struck the canyon wall, sparking off the stone. That single spark fell into the oil. A line of fire roared across the canyon floor, the flames racing like a living creature. Men screamed, stumbling back as fire forced them to retreat. Horses reared, panicking. The canyon turned into a hell of heat and smoke. May shouted up, "Now!" Clara grabbed a second rope, this one tied to a massive boulder wedged high in the canyon wall. Their father had shown them its unstable position years ago. One good pull could dislodge it. Clara yanked. The rope snapped tight. The boulder lunged forward and crashed down with a thunderous boom, blocking the canyon exit and trapping Blake's men between fire and stone. Blake stared in disbelief. You planned this?" May raised her rifle. "We protect what's ours." June fired again, forcing the mercenaries to scatter behind rocks. Clara's shotgun thundered, echoing like rolling storms. Blake tried to rally his men, but they were panicking, trapped, choking on smoke, horses fleeing, bullets flying everywhere. May pressed forward, her sisters covering her from above. She advanced through the smoke and chaos until she reached Blake face to face. He raised his revolver. May didn't flinch. "This land," she said, "belongs to the Ironwood Sisters." Blake fired. May moved first. Her bullet struck his gun, knocking it from his hand. A second shot hit his shoulder. Blake dropped to his knees, gasping as blood soaked his coat. Behind him, the remaining gunmen threw down their weapons and ran, scrambling over rocks, dropping guns, fleeing the canyon through side paths only wild animals used. Blake collapsed fully, defeated. May stood over him, breathing hard. "It didn't have to end this way." "You can't stop progress," Blake wheezed. May lowered her rifle. "Progress doesn't mean theft." And with that, she turned and walked away. 3 hours later, after the smoke settled, the Ironwood Sisters stood at the mouth of the canyon, watching the sun break beautifully over Ironwood Valley. June had soot on her cheek. Clara's hair was filled with dust. May's shirt was torn. They were bruised, tired, and covered in smoke, but alive. And victorious. May placed a hand on each of her sister's shoulders. "We did it." June smirked. "Without getting killed." "Impressive." Clara let out a soft laugh. "Pa would have been proud." May nodded, eyes glistening. Ma too. The wind shifted gently, carrying the scent of wild sage and warm dust, like a blessing from the valley itself. For the first time in days, the land felt peaceful again. The war was over. Months later, after testimonies from townsfolk and witnesses, the territorial board ruled in favor of the Ironwood Sisters. The railroad lost its rights, its land claims, and its power in the valley. Ironwood Ranch became a symbol of resistance, of courage, of three sisters who refused to bend. On a soft golden evening, the sisters stood on their porch, horses grazing nearby, a calm breeze brushing their hair. June looked out at the rebuilt barns and repaired fences. "We protected our home," she said. Clara leaned against the railing. "We protected each other." May smiled softly. "And now? Ironwood stands stronger than ever." The sun dipped low, painting the valley in colors of fire and hope. The camera pulls back. And the Ironwood Sisters stand tall, three silhouettes against a triumphant Wild West horizon. Unbreakable. Unforgotten. Ironwood.